Today's podcast is brought to you by Chikara Wrestle Factory, 4711 Wingate Street, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. In their curriculum, they specialize in lucha libre, porosu, European, British, and German styles, mixed martial arts, and American pro wrestling. The Wrestle Factory, which strives to create the most well-rounded performers active today. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this very special edition of the Fro Wrestling Podcast. This is episode 25. In this special episode, we're going to discuss all the happenings in the wrestling scene. Before we get started, please do me a favor. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening to this, whether it's YouTube, Spreaker, wherever. Please give us a subscribe. We're trying to put out as much new content as we can every day, if we can, every other, if not. But we want to make sure we get you guys the latest news and rumors from the world of professional wrestling. It seems like there's new stuff popping up almost every minute, and we don't want you guys to miss out on any of it. Let's get started with today's news. And the big breaking story, only a few moments ago, reported by WrestleZone.com. The Rock is coming to Raw tonight. Now, there is no promotion about him making an appearance on the show. However, speculation is high because The Rock is at the Staples Center right now. Presumably, he's there to film some shots for the upcoming Paige movie, Fighting With My Family. But the big question is, we're at WrestleMania season. The Rock usually likes to get involved in some way or another, and we're getting down to crunch time here. Is he going to make an appearance on Raw tonight? We'll have to wait and see. It ought to be interesting, but I already reported he definitely is at the Staples Center. So if you're a big Rock fan like myself, please make sure you tune in tonight to watch Monday Night Raw, see what happens. Moving on, we're going to jump into some Cody Rhodes news. Cody Rhodes had a huge post this weekend talking about how he considers New Japan Pro Wrestling now to be his quote-unquote home base for 2017. He's slated to make several appearances throughout the year there, and it looks like he's really enjoying. You could tell from all the appearances he's making for all these different promotions, not wanting to hunker down and sign with any one promotion for exclusive deals. I don't think I've ever seen a wrestler tour so many of the big promotions, meaning TNA, Ring of Honor, New Japan. He's making appearances at various other promotions all throughout the world in such a short period of time. He really is redefining what it can be to be a free agent wrestler. And it's something for wrestling fans all over the world who may not have as much exposure to WWE programming or WWE tours or things like that, who may have been fans of Cody Rhodes in the past, who didn't get the opportunity to see him in action. Now many more audiences are getting that opportunity, so it's awesome for his career path. Congratulations to Cody Rhodes for really doing something that, I don't know if he realizes it or not, but really could be making an impact for many other talents who really would love to have a bigger audience. So great things coming out of Cody Rhodes. Pro Wrestling Guerrilla World Champion Zack Sabre Jr., he also is supposedly headed to New Japan Pro Wrestling, following in the footsteps of Will Ospreay, who's become kind of like one of the cruiserweight style mainstays of New Japan Wrestling in the last year, putting on some of the best matches you can ever ask for. And with Zack Sabre Jr. going there, it could make for some really amazing New Japan, junior heavyweight championship matches. Zack Sabre Jr.'s kind of been killing it all over the world this past year. A lot of it in the United States. He was relatively lower known commodity before 2016. In 2016, he just kind of exploded everywhere. And WWE really missed the boat here, because there was an opportunity for them to sign him last summer during the Cruiserweight Classic, but for whatever reason, they didn't come to terms, and I think they really missed out on a steal, because this guy is incredibly talented. He's insane with the move sets, the skill set, the way he puts a match together with just about anybody, and I hate to compare him to somebody so important, but Ric Flair was always known for being able to give anybody their best match. That's the kind of wrestler Zack Sabre Jr. is. He can bring the best out of just about anybody. So I'm very excited if he heads to New Japan. I don't know how many people tune into Access TV to watch these episodes of New Japan Pro Wrestling. I don't care if they're ones from 2015, 2016, new ones from 2017. They're all solid. And with talents like him going there, you're only going to be getting even better matches than you've already gotten. And New Japan, in my opinion, has the highest quality actual professional wrestling in the world. May not have the most entertainment. WWE is always going to be the king of the entertainment world as far as wrestling is concerned. But at the actual wrestling action, I don't think there's anywhere in the world that puts together a show like New Japan Pro Wrestling. And adding somebody like Zack Sabre Jr. is only going to make it better. On the topic of New Japan, Toji Makabe, it's his 20th anniversary show coming up, and they've announced that he's going to be teaming up with Tamaaki Hanma to battle IWGP Tag Team Champions Toru Yano and Tomohiro Ishii. If you've never seen any of these guys in the ring, again, one of the things that makes Shinsuke Nakamura so popular, he's the man of Japanese strong style wrestling. These heavy hitters, these guys who can really just tear it up out there and be so physical. And that's exactly what you get from people like Makabe, Hanma, Yano, and Ishii. Like, these guys have it down. Strong style is an amazing art form in the world of Japanese wrestling, and it's going to be exciting to see whenever this match makes it to their Access Television broadcast. I'm going to be dying to see it because it should be something special. On a WWE note, not necessarily in-ring action, but there was an Edmonton house show this weekend where, AJ Styles and Dean Ambrose and The Miz were involved in a three-way match for the Intercontinental title. That was the headline for the show, but that was not the coolest thing coming out of the Edmonton show. The coolest thing coming out of the Edmonton show was that David Benoit, the son of the late Chris Benoit, was in attendance and actually got to step into the ring a little bit. And they were taking some photo shots he posted on his Twitter account of him being in the ring. Kind of an emotional thing. No one's ever going to justify the things that Chris Benoit did, but you also cannot argue with his contributions to the sport and performance and entertainment in the pro wrestling world. And to see his son in there, his son, if he ever had an interest in this line of work, it would be amazing if he had even half the talent his father had, for someone to put a positive spin on that legacy instead of what most people will do, which is focus on the last several hours of Chris Benoit's life, which unfortunately is just the way it is when someone does something so heinous. But at the end of the day, very cool to see David Benoit getting in the ring. More WWE news: Nikki and Brie Bella won the Women's Image Award this past weekend, which is awesome for them. So many times, only a few weeks ago, you guys saw that on MTV, one of their VJs was saying something about, all the WWE women are just glorified strippers and Barbie dolls. And the reality is, these are strong women. They're independent women. They're bringing it in a way that women's wrestling has never been brought before, and Nikki and Brie have been a huge part of that. I know a lot of people like to credit people like Charlotte and Sasha Banks, Bayley, those talents, Becky Lynch, for this women's revolution, but the reality is this: you couldn't have a women's revolution if the brand wasn't carried by Nikki and Brie Bella, along with a few others, AJ Lee and Paige, people like that. The really highly talented, highly skilled, very physical women that WWE has used in the last several years. So congratulations to the Bella twins for their Women's Image Award. Fantastic. In a bit of silly WWE news, they are releasing their Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle figure line. If you are one of those people who goes out and collects all the WWE figures that are out there, just as the spoiler, Finn Balor is going to be featured as Leonardo. The Ultimate Warrior will be featured as Donatello. Rowdy Roddy Piper will be featured as Michelangelo, and Raphael is going to be played by The Rock. So if you are a figure collector, make sure you go out and grab yours. And if you happen to bump into one of these guys in an airport and you want to keep it for your own collection, I cannot emphasize that enough. So all these people showing up with duffel bags full of stuff to get signed to make money off of, you actually scare wrestlers away. They don't want to take pictures or do autographs because of you people. But if you're someone who genuinely wants to put this on your wall or keep it, absolutely bring one of those figures when you see one of these guys, because I'm sure that would be a very unique and awesome memento to have for your collection. More WWE news. There's some conversation. I only saw this reported one place, but Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt are now considered to be not a lock for WrestleMania. I can't see that. I still think it's going to end up being the triple threat with Luke Harper for the World Championship. But with Randy Orton giving up his championship match, there's been some conversation apparently in the back about whether or not this match is going to take place. I feel like you have to make this match happen for one very basic reason. You make the Royal Rumble pay-per-view and the winning the Royal Rumble absolutely worthless, at least this year's, if you don't put the Royal Rumble winner in a World Championship match. Why did he compete in the Royal Rumble? What, just to protect Bray, who didn't even have a championship at the time? That doesn't make any sense. So they gotta book this match, keep it the way it is. Not to mention, whether we want it to or not, Bray and Randy are both getting over big time as baby faces, which is kind of weird because they're both supposed to be heels. But at the end of the day, we need to see a solid match out of Bray Wyatt. He's been built so strong, and Randy Orton is somebody who has faced him in the past and has put on some really great performances and would make this WrestleMania match for the World Championship that much better. Adding Luke Harper, as you guys know, I've been saying it for a couple episodes now, Luke Harper's a stud. And putting him in that match, that's actually the most exciting thing if they do a triple threat, is that you elevate somebody like Luke Harper to the main event. There's now a rumor of Triple H potentially facing someone completely different for Mania. Again, I don't know what they're going to do with Triple H if Seth Rollins doesn't make it back, but there lots of things have been talked about. Samoa Joe, different things like that. But this one came out yesterday, and I saw that there's some conversation, at least the rumor mill, I have to emphasize this, purely the rumor mill, is saying that there's a possibility of booking Dave Bautista for Bautista's final match against Triple H. I would be all in favor of this. The problem with that rumor is that Batista has serious heat with WWE. He was really upset with the way they handled his character the last time he was in the company, and I can't see how you rectify that. Not to mention with his busy filming schedule and all these other commitments, I don't know how he'd make it a feasible plan. I don't know how he'd make it to enough Raws to build the match and everything else, unless they're going to just videotape a bunch of vignettes and play those. But definitely something to keep eyes on. I still think it's going to be Seth Rollins. I'm hoping if Seth Rollins is going to be healthy enough to put on one of his 5-star quality matches, but if not, I'm sure they're going to have some kind of backup plan, and this one is just as good as any other plan I've heard of. So, we'll see how that turns out. Tyler Bate, the UK champion, was posted a interview this weekend where he talked about how, despite the fact that he's the inaugural UK champion, and they did so well with this UK tournament, and now that they've come to NXT and all that, he has yet to meet Vince McMahon. He actually talked about in his interview how he's gone over in his mind over and over and over again what he would say to him if he got the opportunity to speak to him. I hope they hurry that up, because I really like his character. And Vince gets behind you, you actually can go places. I would love to see him get his opportunity to speak to Vince so he could try to elevate his career. More WWE news. Sean Waltman, X-Pac, Six, whatever you want to call him. Six-Pac, whatever. He's claiming that Goldberg originally wanted to be called the Hybrid. Now, I can just see the fantasy dream booking of the hybrid versus the prototype. Goldberg versus John Cena. But at the end of the day, this is not new news. I have heard this before. There was a documentary I was watching at one point about WCW where Goldberg himself admitted that that's what he was talking about, because he absolutely hated his own name. They wanted him to use his own name, and good for them, because gimmicks tend to fade. I mean, gosh, I remember when Glacier came out, everybody thought that was going to be something special, and he turned out to fizzle and fry, Thank goodness we just got good old Goldberg. I don't think the chance would be the same. Hybrid. I don't see that. Let's stick with the Goldberg. Moving on to Ring of Honor. Their 15th anniversary show is coming up. It's going to be headlined by Adam Cole defending the Ring of Honor Championship against Christopher Daniels. That match we can't wait to see. Long overdue. Ring of Honor television title be defended. Marty Scurll is going to defend against Leo Rush. Also should be an amazing match. The Ring of Honor tag titles will be on the line. The Young Bucks are going to defend against Roppongi Vice, Beretta, and Rocky Romero from New Japan. Another match that should be off the charts amazing. There's also going to be a street fight between Jay Lethal and Bobby Fish for the #1 contender to the world title. Now, Bobby Fish gets a chance at the championship against Adam Cole before this pay-per-view. However, if Bobby Fish wins, then Jay Lethal would face Adam Cole to see who would get a shot at the anniversary show. And the Ring of Honor 6-man tag team titles will be defended. The Kingdom are going to take on Dalton Castle and the Boys. So that show is absolutely stacked from top to bottom and should be amazing. In some of the independent news, I can't tell you how excited I am for this. Michael Elgin, who is one of my favorite guys I've talked about before. He looks like a small version of a tough guy wrestler, but he's launching his own company, his own independent promotion, Glory Pro Wrestling in St. Louis. They kicked off last night. It was headlined as he went against Matt Riddle in their first main event for the Progress Atlas Championship. They're also going to be holding the Crown of Glory tournament, and last night was the first round. I'm waiting on my sources to get me some results, but very cool to see someone with such a great reputation on the American independent scene to really be able to launch something special. And I think with all the talent that's out there, he seems like, just judging from the talent pool that I saw listed for the first show, it looks like he's going to give some of these younger guys a real opportunity to showcase themselves, which should be awesome. Progress Wrestling announced their top 10 matches of 2016, and I found the top 3 to be just amazing. The fact that number 3 was London Riots vs. War Machine, tag team action at its best. If you haven't seen it, go look it up, YouTube. Awesome match. Match number 2 was Mark Andrews against Chris Hero. Again, killer match. Please go check it out. And the number 1 match last year, Marty Scurll against Chris Hero. Chris Hero getting the nod in both the number 1 and number 2 slots. Awesome matches, all 3 of them, all 10 of them were amazing. But if you haven't seen any of them, by all means, go online, look some of them up, because if you don't watch Progress Wrestling now, you're missing out on some amazing action from people that you may not know as well, but that doesn't mean that they don't have the same level of talent as WWE. They really do. There's some amazing stuff out there. I got one last independent wrestling tidbit today from an all-pro wrestling event. I can't even say this with a straight face. They had the appearance of Stardust. Except it wasn't Stardust. It was Joey Ryan dressed as Stardust, coming out in the face paint and the leather, doing the cartwheel, the whole 9, which I am a huge Joey Ryan fan. I think he is such an underused, underappreciated talent. The guy is awesome, and he came out doing the whole Stardust thing, and what an awesome lead-in. I mean, at some point, he and Cody Rhodes will have to get in the ring together somewhere in the independent scene, which will be funny. I would love to see him come out as Stardust and go against Cody Rhodes at some point. That would be poetry in motion. Gotta love it, but I had to give that a shout out. So I'm gonna go with this day in pro wrestling history. 49 years ago, the Russian Lion, George Karl Julius Hackenschmidt. For anybody who doesn't know who George Hackenschmidt is, I'm going to give you an explanation now, but 49 years ago today, he passed away at the age of 90. This man is so much more than just a wrestler. In 1899, he became the Russian champion, back when wrestling was real wrestling. He won world championship tournaments all over the world, including places like Paris, France, Vienna. Sometimes he'd wrestle like 2, 3, sometimes 4 or 5 people in one night. And we're not talking about these 10, 15-minute matches. We're talking about hour-long marathons. Most of the time going 2 out of 3 falls. And in 1908, he went to Chicago's Dexter Park. Is the first time he loses. He lost to Frank Gotch. And it was a highly controversial thing. There was actually a rematch held at Comiskey Park later, a couple years later, I believe it was 3 years later, and in 20 minutes he lost again to Gotch because he got injured before the match. He actually messed up his knee, and Gotch targeted his knee throughout the match. He ended up winning with like a toe lock on Hackenschmidt to get the win. But once that match was over, he ended up retiring from wrestling, but he became a successful author. He wrote 2 books. The Complete Science of Wrestling, which, as you can tell what that is, it was his philosophy behind how to wrestle. And the other was The Way to Live in Health and Physical Fitness. This man was a genetic freak at the time. We have all these jacked up wrestlers now. None of them are anything near the quality of George Hackenschmidt. I mean, many people reference Bruce Lee and his research and his practice in health and medicine and muscle advancement, things like that, as being one of the most physically gifted people in history. Hackenschmidt's right there with him. If you see pictures of this guy, by all means, go to Google, do an image search, look up George Hackenschmidt. You'll see this guy's ripped. This is long before anabolic steroids. The guy was a huge influence in the world of wrestling, unified all the major championships in the world into one, creating the true first world champion. So it's a sad day because it's, celebrating, unfortunately, the anniversary of his passing, but don't ever want to forget all his contributions. 22 years ago, Super Brawl 5 sees Hulk Hogan defeat Vader via disqualification. The pay-per-view itself was less than memorable, but the big meeting between Hogan and Vader, very cool. I remember seeing replays of it when Vader came to WWE, or WWF at the time, and WCW wanted to make WWE look bad. They would show videos of Hogan slapping Vader in the corner, trying to imply that Hogan dominated Vader, this new WWE talent, which was total nonsense. Vader had a great match with Hogan at that pay-per-view. 5 years ago today, for people who listen to this podcast, I'm a huge fan of Japanese wrestling. 5 years ago today, Pro Wrestling Noah, All Japan Wrestling, and New Japan Wrestling came together and presented a pay-per-view. They called it All Together, Once More, Let's Become One. It was a huge show that took place, and they brought all their talents together, combined people into different matches. There was no championships on the line. There were no storylines. It was purely a show for the fans to showcase all the Japanese talent. And it's one of those things, if you go back and you do like a search, a Wikipedia search or something on the card and look up some of the matches, I mean, I ain't gonna lie to you, I can't even pronounce some of the names. It's just the way it is. But Suzuki Gun was featured in the event, and they're a stable now in New Japan. So at any chance you get, go back and take a look at some of the matches from that Once More Let's Become One pay-per-view or a unified card, and see if you can find something in there that really gets you a great introduction to some of these other wrestlers that you really don't get the exposure to. I want to address a comment from episode 24. I ask you guys all the time to give me your comments, your feedback, and I got one that when I saw it, I couldn't stop smiling for like an hour. Let me say this again. WWE A&E Themes 101. That's the person's name on YouTube. Called the podcast the most electrifying podcast in all of entertainment. WWE A&E Themes 101, thank you so much for that compliment. That means the world to me. That's actually hilarious. I will be sharing that tonight as I watch Raw. My buddies come over, and they're going to be saying stuff to me. You know I'm throwing that line out there if The Rock comes out. I'm just saying. He may be the most electrifying man in sports entertainment today, but I'm going to be talking about the podcast. Just saying. The look back match for today. I think somebody said to me that there's like a theme, so every once in a while I go back to this one same promotion, but it's because there's so many matches that people just haven't seen. Randy Savage versus Crusher Broomfield. And for anybody who doesn't know who Crusher Broomfield is, you know who Randy Savage is. This is back when he was in ICW, his father's promotion. He gets a match here against Crusher Broomfield, who would later go on to pack on a whole lot more weight and would become the one-man gang, or the African Dream, Akeem. And if you go check this out, it's actually a 3-part match, so you got to watch 3 separate videos. But awesome match, and it's early in the gang's career. And I mean, if you knew what the one-man gang looked like later in his career, you wouldn't even recognize the guy. It's kind of crazy. I'm going to start a different segment today. We're going to do fantasy booking time. In the comments below, do me a favor. Tell me if you could hold a 4-team tournament to determine the greatest tag team of all time, who are you going to include in that tournament? How's the tournament going to turn out if you were booking? Who's going to beat who? Who's going to go to the finals? And then who's going to be your number 1 tag team of all time? Put your answers and responses in the comment box below. I can't wait to hear them. I got a ton of comments in the last couple days. We did a lot of publicity on Facebook and YouTube, Twitter, and we have a whole lot of new listeners. Thank you to all you new listeners. We really appreciate you guys coming in here and making our show everything that it is today. We've got such a loyal fan base, and we're slowly growing, slowly but surely. But if you have anybody you think would enjoy this podcast, by all means, share the podcast with them. Give us a review. Give us a subscribe. I am always open to constructive criticism. If there's something we could be doing better, please let me know. I want to make this the best podcast I can for my viewers. That's all the time I have for this episode. Sorry about that. I know it's kind of short, but check back with us in episode 26, where we review the happenings of Raw and SmackDown, projections as we get closer to Mania. As always, special thanks out to bensound.com and purpleplanet.com for producing all the music and sound effects for today's show. Today's podcast was sponsored in part by Beazle Games. Bringing a new friend to family game night is easy with Sketchy People. Showcase your artistic side with this new game. Bring some fun and excitement back to family game night. Go to www.thegamecrafter.com/sketchypeople to pick up your copy today. And to alleyrepair.com. Contact Alley Repair today for servicing of all your classic skee-ball, pinball, and arcade game needs. They do high-quality work, and I'm telling you, I've had to have work done by this guy. He is fantastic. If you have any of this older equipment in your home, he could bring it back to life, make it work just like new. We want to thank you for listening to today's podcast. We encourage you to go to our website. For those of you who don't know me yet, our website is www.frolifeplanning.com. And it's a website we are designed to help you find out more about what we can do for you if you are on the path to higher education. You're not sure what to do. You want to get to college. You need scholarships. You need to prepare for the SAT, the ACT. You want to just review your records and make sure you're applying to the right schools. That's what we do at Fro Life Planning. We make sure that we match you to colleges and universities that match your skill set, your qualifications. We don't want to see people applying to schools that they could be doing better. We don't want to see people apply to schools that they shouldn't be applying at so they don't get accepted. We want you to get accepted to your number 1 choice, and we're going to help you get there. So by all means, frolifeplanning.com. Remember, Fro Life Educational Planning is for today, for tomorrow, and for life with Fro Life. I'm Fred Froelich, better known as Mr. Fro, and I want to thank you for taking a few moments with us today. I look forward to discussing more of these current events and rumors with you on our next episode. Until then, everybody take care and enjoy Raw tonight. I'm looking forward to seeing The Rock.